Did everyone hear that the recording is begun?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Give me just a second to start streaming. It's thinking. Okay, we're in good shape, Cheryl. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome to this forum for the Missouri House Districts 21, 29, and 36, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties. I am Cheryl Barnes and I'm a member of this league. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We neither screen nor endorse candidates. Our mission is to empower voters and to defend our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, the desire, and the confidence to participate. Our membership is open to everyone. We are here for this voter education event to provide an opportunity for you to ask questions and listen as the candidates present their positions. Voters have submitted questions via email at forumquestions@lwvkc.org. That's forumquestions@lwvkc.org. If you have a last-minute question, you can send it in now. All of the candidates running for these Missouri House Districts 21, 29, and 36 have been invited to participate in our forum tonight. There were 8 candidates, or a total of 8 candidates participating in the election this year. We welcome and appreciate these candidates. I'd like for you all to know the other league members volunteering with me tonight. Our timekeeper is Misty Jager. Our Zoom board is monitored by Stancy Sanderstrom. Our legislative forum coordinator is Anitra Steele. This forum will be recorded and available and archived on the league's webpage, lwvkc.org, lwvkc.org. The candidates will answer each question in random order that I've shared with the candidates. Each will have 90 seconds to respond to your questions. Candidates, please answer the questions asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you can go back to an issue during your closing remarks for which you are allotted. Let us begin. So the first question is, what do you bring to your candidacy that makes you uniquely qualified for this office? What do you bring to your candidacy that makes you uniquely qualified for this office? And we'll start with Mr. Sauls. Sorry, we'll start with Mr. Crossley.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for thank you to the League of Women Voters, first of all, for hosting this forum and for always hosting forums to make this process so transparent for voters. Thank you to those of you who are logging in now to watch it, or those of you who are watching it later. And thank you to the other candidates that are on here for taking the time off of the campaign trail to make your viewpoints transparent to voters. My name is Aaron Crossley, and I'm running for Missouri House District 29 here in Independence, where my wife Jessica and I have made our home since 2006. We've raised our 2 kids here, Corbin, who is 14, and Isabel, who is 12. You know, I believe that our community deserves someone who will fight for our children to have a great education, for workers to have jobs that pay a livable wage, for physical and mental health care resources that are accessible and affordable, and most importantly, for our neighborhoods to be safe. So I believe that what makes me most qualified for this position is that I'm already doing this work. As a social worker, I've spent years advocating for the people in our community to have the resources that they need. And now in a policy creation role and in my professional life, I create policies that ensure that no one is left behind. And all of this has prepared me to start day one in Jefferson City. So again, thank you for this time, and I look forward to sharing more as the night goes on.
Thank you. You all will notice in the on your screen the purple vote for 1 that will be the timer, and you'll have 90 seconds.
Great.
Mr. Crossley, the same question: what do you bring to your candidacy that makes you uniquely qualified for this office? I'm sorry, Mr. Sauls.
Okay.
I'll get you
All
guys
right,
straightened up
thank
in a minute. I apologize.
That's all right. Thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. So yeah, my name is Robert Sauls, State Representative of the 21st District, and I'm a dedicated public servant. And whether it be as a prosecuting attorney, public defender, or assistant staff judge advocate in the Air Force Reserves, I have spent my life helping others, and it's what I want to continue to do as your state representative. Not to mention I've been doing the job for 4 years. So ultimately, I believe that's what also makes me qualified. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, same question. What do you bring to your candidacy that makes you uniquely qualified for the office?
Okay, well, I have been on the Jackson County Republican Committee since 2016. I've seen what's going on in the community through my involvement with the Republican Party in the community, and also I've been a truck driver for the last more than 13 years. I started in 2007, so I see what the average person has to go through to make it, and not just as a business or as an individual who's just working hard trying to make it. I understand it, and especially with we see what's going on with the economy right now, and as a truck driver, I see it very much with the fuel costs, and it's definitely a difficult time for a lot of people right now. So I want to help them and address these issues, especially with the cost of fuel and living expenses in the state of Missouri. We're good there.
Thank you. Ms. Turnbaugh, what makes you a unique candidate?
Well, good evening, everyone, and my hopefully new colleagues. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum tonight. I am State Representative Annette Turnbaugh, running for re-election for my seat in the 36th District. My experience as an elected leader in accomplishing results for our district, along with my board support from Mayor Leonard Jones, 30 plus of my colleagues in organizations ranging from organized labor, Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, Missouri NEA, school administrators, and other teacher groups, to name a few, demonstrate that I'm a trusted leader who is valued as a state representative. My public service, both as a Grandview alderwoman for over 10 years and state representative, and a state representative. My public service, both as a Grandview alderwoman, whoops, doubled me up here, as a and state representative, I have worked to develop sound policies which benefit our community and our families. This is how you earn the right to represent the people. I will continue to work to protect our senior citizens, working families' rights, and investing in our neighborhoods. I write it down so I don't trip over myself and repeat as I'm speaking freely. So I apologize for that, but I try to stay timely.
No worries. Thank you. Mr. Crossley, we'll start with you again. What Missouri gun laws need to be changed?
Well, first, I want to say that I support the Second Amendment, and I support responsible gun ownership and the right to that. And as a social worker, I've seen, what a gun in the wrong hands can do, and the trauma that can cause in people. So I think that there are several common sense measures that we can take to make sure to preserve that right while keeping people safe, such as closing the boyfriend loophole, implementing red flag laws, and also ensuring proper background checks on sales.
Thank you. Ms. Turnbaugh, Missouri gun laws, what needs to be changed?
Everything that Aaron just said, those red flag laws are going to save lives. Again, I'm a gun owner. We're not trying to take guns away from anyone. We're just trying to make it more responsible. My concern, of course, is also with the 3D machines that originally were invented to be making arms and legs for our veterans and for those that have been amputees. and how quickly it turned that it's making illegal ghost guns is a huge concern, and how we're going to address that going forward. But obviously the red flag laws and pretty much everything Aaron just mentioned as well.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, gun laws?
Yeah, so you know, not to parrot really what anybody can. Ultimately, I'm a gun really well. I've owned guns since I was 13 years old. I've had, I'm in the military. I have trained with firearms. I am, I agree. I'm not trying to take anyone's rights away. I believe we can defend the right for an individual to have firearms. I think we can defend the Second Amendment, as well as make it so that a 19-year-old posting on Twitter that he's going to do something wrong can't get one. And I think that's the breakdown, really. That and when you think about it that way, Missouri is fourth in the country for gun violence, and given the population and where we are, I think that should be concerning to everybody. And again, I want to focus on the fact that I do believe we can defend someone's right to own firearms, protect the Second Amendment, as well as make it harder for the people who are going to cause harm from getting one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. Do you support allowing teachers and
You
staff to
skipped
carry?
over me.
Ms. Barnes, you look.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Barton. Thank you. I'm trying to get my grid squared away. Thank you for catching that. Go ahead, guns.
Yeah, on the guns, I just wanted to make a couple of points, a few points actually. We need to protect a recent law that was which was passed by our legislature for SAPA, Second Amendment Preservation Act, to keep federal agents from coming in and violating the citizens' rights of Missouri. Also, we look at, well, I'll just say, okay, I lived in the east side of Kansas City for a long time, and it's a very dangerous area. A lot of homicides have been around the area that I lived, and we need to be able to protect ourselves and not face prosecution when we use our firearms to defend ourselves. So we need to pass laws to protect the residents who defend themselves with their firearms. We have right now in the state of Missouri, if you shoot somebody in self-defense, the burden of proof is on you that you did it in self-defense. We need to change that so that the burden of proof is on the state of Missouri. If they're going to prosecute you, they should be the ones proving that you were not defending yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. And I apologize for skipping you. I'm getting my grid squared away, so hopefully that won't happen again. A follow on to that. Do you support allowing teachers and staff to carry guns in the classroom? Teachers and staff to carry guns in the classroom. And we'll start with Ms. Turnbaugh.
I don't like the idea of teachers and staff carrying guns in the classroom. It's something that the children will see as yet normal. I think that more security in the schools and what they need to do as far as the cameras, keeping track of what else going on there. I'm not comfortable with teachers having guns in their classrooms for what may go wrong, as opposed to what may happen if there's a breach. There should be plenty of security in the schools, which obviously the SROs that are there aren't enough. And I want them safe, but for the majority of the teachers that I've spoken to, they don't want any part of having a gun in their classroom.
Thank you. Mr. Crossley, guns in the classroom.
Yeah, as a parent of two kids in the independent school district, and as I used to be a behavior interventionist in the public school system, it was one of my first jobs out of college. This is an issue that is really personal to me. It's something I think about as I send my kids to school. And, you know, having worked in the school, I've seen the burden that we already put on teachers. We already give them a heavy and increasing burden in the classroom. So I don't think teachers should be required to carry guns in the classrooms. And honestly, you know, as I've gone door to door and have talked to teachers in our district and have talked to parents of children in our district, they don't want this either. You know, of course, we should work to ensure that our schools are safe and as secure as possible, because they are holding our most precious resource, our children. And, you know, through recent federal legislation, there was more funding has been made available to harden schools to make them more physically secure. So I think we should take advantage of that funding as it is available to us to make sure that our kids are safe.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, teachers and staff
yes.
carry guns.
Yes, I have a 10-year-old son. He goes to the Kansas City Public School District, and a lot of these schools are what I consider to be a dangerous area. So I think the teachers should be armed. We have laws already passed in Missouri that teachers can be armed with proper training. And I think we should make it easier for them to be armed. Maybe pay for their training if they're going to be armed. Also, hardening the schools is one thing. I think Sauls was mentioning that we need to harden the schools, make one point of entry that's so that we can't have outside intruders coming in and risking the lives of our children and teachers. And I guess that's about what I would have to say there.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, your
Yep.
take on teachers, armed teachers?
Yeah, so, you know, I've been trained in weapons, and I think that that's the key here, right? I don't particularly agree with teachers having firearms. I do think we should have more security in schools. I think that's, you know, and that's my concern. Is quite frankly, I don't know that, you know, a teacher taking a 8 to 16 hour class is going to be sufficient for what to do in a time of stress, like an active shooter or something to that effect. I do think that, like I said, I think we should have more security. I think we should have more people who are properly trained to be in schools. But I don't think we add that to the table of what teachers are already doing when they're paid 49th in the state of teacher pay. So I think there are better ways to address this, and I would look at one of those avenues.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. Would you support local control for the Kansas City Police Department? Local control for the Kansas City Police Department. And we'll start with you, Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I think that the state oversight has been good, and I believe that we should keep it the way it has been. It's been this way for a long time, and this way we have, I think, a little bit more of a better police department than you would see in some of the other cities around the state. Kansas City, as a large city, is one of the last, or is the last one that we have some state oversight on. So I would keep it the way it is.
I see. Mr. Sauls, local police control?
Yeah. No, I absolutely think we should have local control in every facet is good. I think what we've done with that is not a good example. I think if you ask a lot of the folks in Kansas City, they tell you the same thing. I think local control is pivotal to all of that. I mean, you know, honestly, I'd like to see more local control in everything, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like whenever, you know, to be kind of off topic, but to go with what the governor did during the pandemic, with the idea of local control indicating what was going to happen within that community. I don't want somebody from you know, Worth County telling me what I need to do in my community because it suits Worth County. We need more local control in just about every way, because ultimately that's where the power should reside. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Turnbaugh, local control?
Absolutely. Having been an alderman for 11 years prior to my election to the state house, you know, we in the community of Grandview, we had active shooter training, we had all led by our police department. And a lot of the things specifically that the governor is wanting to take away the control from the local communities, I think is absurd, because nobody knows your community better than your city officials and your police departments. And I think they know what's best for what's happening in your communities.
Thank you. And Mr. Crossley, local control.
Yes, I would support local control.
Thank you. Next question. Would you support conflict resolution training for police and then down through the schools? Conflict resolution training for both the police and then in the schools. And with this one, we'll start with you, Mr. Sauls.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't support that. To be perfectly honest, I think that is I mean, what's wrong? What's wrong with more training and how to resolve conflicts, particularly with folks who deal with conflict on a regular basis? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Can't imagine why anybody would say no to this.
Thank you. Ms. Turnbaugh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
When I have a clarification, when you're talking about conflict resolution, what are we?
You went on mute, Mr. Martin. Could you start over, please?
What kind of conflict resolution are we talking about? Are you talking for the students? Are you talking for staff? What is?
Primarily students and then up through and including the police, so that when little kids come to school, instead of fighting, they learn how to talk to one another.
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure that I would support the state funding of activity like that. But as far as, I think we have social workers in the schools already. I don't see why we would need something more.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crossley, conflict resolution for the police and then down through the educational community.
Yeah, I absolutely would support that. I mentioned earlier that I was a behavior interventionist in an elementary school in the public school system. So those are skills that I taught children. And I saw the difference that it made when we would have students come in that hadn't ever been taught that kind of self-control. Once they were taught how to communicate and resolve their differences in a way that didn't especially include physical violence, it made their school day easier. It made their learning easier. Through my professional capacity, I teach part of the Kansas City Police Department CIT, or Crisis Intervention Team training, where I go in and I help teach police officers how to respond to crises of the mental health variety, so that when somebody calls the police and says, hey, I think somebody here is experiencing something behavioral, a behavioral health crisis, then I help teach that class so that police are equipped with the resources that they need. So I always think that, we should always fund those kinds of trainings for police more. We should fund the police more in those kinds of efforts. So I absolutely would support that.
Thank you. Missouri's current law does not allow for abortion for victims of rape and incest. Missouri's current law does not allow for abortion for victims of rape and incest. What are your plans to add additional state funds for coverage to support these women and girls with healthcare, education, housing, counseling, and childcare services? And Ms. Turnbaugh, we'll start with you.
Oh, mercy. There's so much work to be done. This has been catastrophic with the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I am sure we are planning, they're getting legislation together, talking with the governor, trying to work to make clarification. As of right now, we don't even have any straight up clarification on what all is going to be covered as far as abortion, because as we know, ectopic pregnancies, miscarriages so many different non-viable pregnancies, the only way to save the life of the mother is with a DNC or an abortion, which in DNC would be referred to as an abortion because of that happening. But the woman's going to die if it's not happened. So, and the incest, I think of the young 10-year-old girl in Ohio, since this passage, they're at this point with what they have set in stone right now with the incest as well as the rape. At this point, it's a stalemate. And at this moment in time, nothing can be done to save her. And that we've got to find ways in legislation to try to fix this, because there's not even any clarification on contraceptive use and so on. So it's pretty frustrating right now as we move forward to try to figure out how we're going to be able to get this clarified so those people are
Thank you.
careful.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Martin, same question.
Well, I think abortion is bad. It's a terrible thing both for the mother and of course the child, because the child loses its life. Whether it was, excuse me, I'm sorry, motorcycle, I am in my vehicle. I think it's a very bad thing for the mother to go through, even if the child was conceived through rape or incest or any of that. I think it's wrong to kill somebody and put that on the mother of the child. That would be a horrible thing to do. We do have adoption in the state of Missouri. There are resources out there, and I think maybe making awareness of some of the resources that are available through private organizations and through the state would be helpful to mothers that are having them issues to deal with. And then as what the state has passed is very good law for protecting unborn children, and we need to uphold that in the state of Missouri.
Thank you. Mr. Crossley, same question.
In my professional capacity as a social worker, I've supported people through the trauma of rape and incest. And, while we don't want to talk about it often, that is an evil that does exist. And the way that the Missouri law is currently written, it's going to end up criminalizing victims of rape and incest. So, the government has no place in family planning decisions, period. These kinds of decisions should be left up to women and their families in consultation with medical professionals. And as a husband and as a father of a young woman, I trust women and their doctors to make the best choices for themselves. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, same question.
Yeah, so, with regard to what Mr. Martin said, I think it's, I know there are strong opinions on the topic, and I think it's fine if that's the choice you want to make, right? If that's the choice you want to make and go forward that way, I think that's perfectly fine. But I don't think that's a choice that I should make for you. I don't think that's a choice that any of us should make for you. I think in a situation such as that, I might just add, I was a prosecuting attorney for 6.5 years. And I've seen the consequences of this personal. I've seen it up close and personal. I've seen, young kids in this type of a situation. I don't want to really elaborate because my child is present as well. And I just think that's wrong. And I think we've gone too far in that regard. I think, I understand strong opinions on the topic, but like I said, I think we've just gone too far in that regard. Oh, you mentioned funding. Well, the legislature is also 70% conservative. That's the House, that's the Senate. So I'll just leave that there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next topic, also a lot of fun. Do you think there is a conflict with the Missouri Constitution of separation of church and state if any public funds are given to parochial religious schools? Is there a conflict with the Missouri Constitution of separation of church and state if any public funds are given to parochial religious schools? And with this, we start with you, Mr. Martin.
Oh, I don't believe there's any conflict as long as the schools are teaching children in the state of Missouri. If the funds are available to public schools, they can be made available to private and religious schools, that we make them available for charter schools. In some instances in the state of Missouri, we should make it available for all children to get a good education in the state of Missouri. Especially living on the east side of Kansas City, I've seen the children struggle with some of these schools and the environment they're growing up in. And it'd be best for them if they could get into a good private or Christian school and for a good education. And I think it's fair we had unaccredited schools in Kansas City, that children be able to go to any school that's near enough to them that their parents can get them to, and for a good education. It's very important for children. I don't see how anybody could argue with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crossley, same question. Conflict with the Missouri Constitution of separation of church and state.
Yeah, I'm a proud product of public education. My children have attended ISD schools since kindergarten. So I view funding our public schools well as an investment in the well-being of our children's future and of our future workforce. As a taxpayer, I'm really uncomfortable with my public tax dollars being put under private oversight, because if I don't agree with how those tax dollars are being spent, then I can't vote out those private boards, which ultimately funnel money into private interest. So I will always be a strong advocate for public education, because I believe that our schools are strongest when we work together to find solutions for all students, rather than splintering into 1,000 different solutions. And I think the academies that we have here in our independence high schools are a great example of that, of tailoring education to every student's needs, because every student in independence high schools, they can create an individualized track that prepares them to enter the workforce by the time that they graduate.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls?
Yeah, so based on a recent Supreme Court decision, I don't know that there actually would be. I'd have to review that, but I would say that with the following caveat, and that is, that also, it's not just Christian schools. That also is Islamic schools. That also is Jewish schools, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what these decisions. People applaud these types of decisions. And let me just say, I'm also a member of. I was a product of public schools. I'm also born again Christian, so I have both of those. But I just want to be clear that those types of things, people who see these decisions and think that that's good, it also means that it opens it up because of the U.S. Constitution. For example, the recent decision that allowed the prayer on the 50-yard line. Okay, but also understand that also goes the other way too, and that is the U.S. Supreme Court. That's the U.S. Constitution. And those are things that people don't think about, with these decisions. So I would just add that to the discussion.
Thank you. Ms. Turnbaugh?
Yeah, and I'm a product of private schools, 2nd and 3rd grade, 4th and 5th grade, and then back to public schools. Again, as my colleagues have said, I don't want to take any money away from the public school system. Our taxpayer dollars are there. When I went through public schools or private schools, my parents paid the bill. That was the choice that they made for me to get my education for those 4 years. And then back to the public schools, which I got a great education, and here I am today. I think there, and to speak personally, my district we have a couple of private schools, but we have no magnet or charter schools in my district. But again, it's being taken care of in the sense that what we got done in legislation this past year was that the money for public schools, and Representative Sauls, you correct me if I'm wrong, we got legislation passed whereby the public school funding is going to stay with the public school funding. And there will be opportunities for the magnet, charter, and public schools. It just won't be removing that dollar amount that they put on a child's head and taking it away from the public schools to the Christian and the charter magnet schools.
Thank you. This will be our last question, and then we will follow up with a 2-minute wrap up with all of you. So do you support the initiative petition process? Do you support the initiative petition process? And will you support successfully passed issues brought to the legislature through the initiative petition process? And we start with you, Mr. Crossley.
Yeah, I absolutely do support the initiative petition process. Missouri is one of only a few handfuls of states that have this really unique opportunity. It's one of the last recourses that we have as citizens to hold our government accountable when we feel like it's not doing what it should be doing and working for us. And, you know, because one of the values of social work is making sure that people's voices are heard, I believe that there should always be more ways to make your voice heard and not less. So I, in the legislature, will fight to ensure that this important tool of citizen empowerment is held in place and stands. And I certainly will support the initiatives that that voters pass through the ballot initiative process, because that's their voice. And when I'm elected, I will be working to uphold citizen voice and representing every citizen in my district. So I absolutely will uphold what is passed, you know, because ultimately our elected officials work for us. They don't always remember that, but they need to be reminded of that either through this process, and ultimately, if they're not working for us, we need to vote them out.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Martin.
Yeah. Yes, I support having an initiative petition process. I think it's been abused lately by out-of-state money to get stuff on the ballot to circumvent our legislators. We have an elected legislative body for a reason, to represent us. We go out and we vote for our state representatives for the Missouri House. We vote for our state senators, and I think those are the people who want to represent us, and they're the ones who should be making the laws. But there can be an initiative petition process, but I think we need to put some limits on it so that it's not abused, as we've seen with a lot of things. They've come in here and tried to pass all kinds of things in the state of Missouri. Some of them the voters have struck down, and that's a good thing. So, but anyway, that's where I stand on it.
Thank you. Ms. Turnbaugh? Initiative petitions?
Absolutely. I consider myself a servant of the people. And when I go to Jeff City, I'm working for the people that sent me there. And their voice has to be heard. It's not what is wanted in Jeff City for the majority, but I think it's, as Mr. Crossley stated, it's imperative that we have initiative petition in my purview.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls, initiative petition?
Yeah, so, I was actually writing down and words, and actually Aaron was saying a lot of what I was going to say. So I'm just going to say that, the initiative petition process ensures that the government works for us.
Right.
And, I will say this, a lot of the folks in Jefferson City, a lot of the folks who complain about the out-of-state money are also getting supported by the same out-of-state money. So a lot of these politicians are willing to take the money to run for office, but then they want to get all bent out of shape because somebody from Kansas or some other place, some Illinois, wants to support an initiative petition process in Missouri. So, I think the initiative petition process I will always defend it. I think it's a way that the people get to choose what laws they want. Because quite frankly, the reason the initiative petition process is so successful and works the way that it does is because Jefferson City is not doing what the people want. And that goes back to the whole 70% of the legislature being conservative. I would just say that in that instance, for example, medical marijuana or raising the minimum wage or any of these issues, Clean Missouri, all those things passed, not right to work as well. All of those things passed and it's the legislature that refused to act on those topics. And so ultimately, again, if we did our jobs, then we wouldn't have to worry about the initiative petition process. But since ultimately in many instances they're not, I think it's
Thank
great
you.
that we have it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So now it's time to wrap up. And so I want to thank the audience for their thought-provoking questions and their interest in this election. And we truly appreciate the candidates. These forums are really important. It gives us a chance to get an insight where we wouldn't normally have a chance to visit with you and have you come into our living rooms this way. And it's convenient for people to take a look who can't be here at this very hour. So we truly appreciate you making time for your constituents. So the forum will be archived on the League's website, and that is lwvkc.org. So now we're going to turn to your closing remarks, and you'll have 2 minutes to wrap up your thoughts. And in addition to, I just want to encourage everybody to plan on voting on August 2nd if you haven't already. So you won't have to say that. You can talk about something else. But in any case, for your closing remarks, and we will start with you, Ms. Turnbaugh.
All right. Again, to keep us on track. I've spent my entire life serving the community, starting at age 20 on the Downtown Revitalization Committee here in Grandview. Since then, I've served on multiple boards and commissions as president on 2 nonprofits and secretary junior vice on another, which resulted in my being elected to the Grandview Board of Aldermen for Ward 2 for over 10 years. Most recently, the people of the district elected me to represent them in Jefferson City to the House of Representatives. My experience affords me the ability to help constituents directly when they have an issue with the state government. Constituent services are my priority as your state representative. In my opinion, that's how you prepare to go to Jefferson City and effectively represent the people. Thank you for your past support, and I would appreciate your vote re-electing me to continue serving you in Jefferson City.
Thank you, Ms. Turnbaugh. Mr.
Thank
Sauls,
you.
your closing remarks.
Yeah, so I just want to reiterate, I'm a dedicated public servant. I've spent my whole life helping people. That's really how what I've done. Whether it be putting criminals in jail, defending the rights of the accused, serving in the United States military, serving as a
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. We've lost Mr. Sauls.
Oops, he's coming
Oh,
back.
there he is.
Mr. Sauls, you're on mute, and would you mind starting over? You're still on mute.
okay.
There. If
Can
you
you
would just start
hear me
over,
now?
that'd be great. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry
All
for
right.
the,
Thank you. No, it's okay. Yeah, so like I said, I'm a dedicated public servant. I've spent my whole life helping people, whether it be putting criminals behind bars, whether it be defending the rights of the accused, whether it be serving in the United States military, serving as your state representative. I've spent my time trying to help others, and that's what I intend to keep doing. I think that our state has gone in the wrong direction. I will say that the legislature is 70% Republican. It's in the Senate and the House, and I don't think a supermajority or even a Democrat supermajority is representative of the people, because quite frankly, I think that's part of our problem. It's part of our problem with gerrymandering. It's part of our problem with people not having people representing districts where it's so lopsided. And we see it every day. We see it in Jefferson City. We see it all the time. And, I represent everybody, and I make that a point. I don't, whenever a constituent contacts me for help and says, I need help getting my real ID, I don't ask them who they voted for, because quite frankly, I don't care. My job is to represent you, and in that sense, it doesn't matter. And I think that's part of our problem as a state. I think we've gone too far. We've gerrymandered our districts into mostly 90% of them are already predetermined. And I don't think that's a good representation of this state. And I think as such, we need to continue to elect more Democrats to try to even things out. so that we have a representative government that's more representative of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crossley, your closing statement, please.
And thank you again for hosting this forum. You know, after 2 years or after 2 decades of social service, I wake up every day with the stories of those I've served over the years on my mind. And now that I've been to thousands of doors here in Independence and visited with folks, I wake up with your stories too. I hear your concerns that you have for your children's future by making sure that they have an amazing education and amazing schools that suit their needs. I hear the struggles that you've had in connecting with mental health resources your family needs, and it's been an honor to connect many of you with those services when I've been at your door. I hear your frustration with having a government that isn't working for you and that doesn't feel transparent to you. And I hear your desire to live in a neighborhood that is safe, where everyone flourishes and kids can play outside without concern. And that's exactly why I'm running to represent you in Jefferson City, to take your stories, to take your concerns into the halls of power where decisions are being made that affect you every day. So again, thank you for being on here tonight. I encourage you to visit my website to learn more about me, aaroncrossley.com. If there's anything you'd like to share or anything we didn't cover that you want to make sure that you have the answer to, you can reach out to me there, and I would love to be able to get back to you on that. So again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Martin, your closing remarks, please.
Oh, yeah. I misspoke earlier. I guess I've been a truck driver for about 15 years. As a truck driver, time flies by so fast. I saw what government overreach has done to businesses over the past, well, since COVID. I've seen what the harm it does to a lot of businesses, closures, put them out of business, shutdowns, and even forced vaccinations. I faced forced vaccination as a truck driver. I think it's a ridiculous thing, and we need to make sure that our freedom and our rights are not violated by certainly an oppressive government, whether it's at the local level, the county level, or even the state level or federal level. But also, we see what's going on with our economy. It's devastating. It's devastating to people in my industry as a truck driver. And I want to protect our truck drivers, our hardworking warehousemen, and people across the community. And also, we also see with attack on our rights to bear arms and protect ourselves. The need to protect ourselves from people who wish us harm in our homes, on our property, or just out in the community. We need to be able to protect ourselves, and I'm going to make sure that we can protect our bodies, ourselves, and our homes from people with our Second Amendment rights. Also, you know, I saw shutdowns, churches shut down with the COVID. That was wrong. It's our right. It's our religious freedom. And I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I see I'm running out of time here. I just say I want an opportunity to go up against Aaron Crossley because I'm in a Republican primary. So hope you'll vote for me. I've got a website, davidmartin.gop. You can go on there and check out more information about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And thanks again to everybody who is watching. Whenever you're watching, we do hope that you'll listen to what the candidates had to say. We truly appreciate them becoming part of our evening this evening, and we hope that you will vote August 2nd and stay in touch with the league. And if you've got friends who were unable to join us, the program will be archived on the league's website, lwvkc.org. Thanks again and good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.